Dr. Paul, you know the name of our show today is How to Be a Badass Top Gun Navy Jet Attack Pilot. And the reason we're doing that is because you and I, Dr. Paul, are going to talk about something that you reminded me of. We were like astronauts when we first went to the ship. We had no idea what was going on. And the first time we landed an airplane on an aircraft carrier was an experience of a lifetime. Paul, you want to start off with this?
I felt like, kind of like I was going into space. Most of my training up until that point had been in preparation of actually landing on a ship, even when you were a long way from the ship. Because you weren't near the beach or anything. Your base was in the middle of nowhere, right?
That's right.
We were in the middle of nowhere, there's no water. Where I was, there was water, in the Gulf of Mexico, but we didn't really operate over there. So when we finally went, it was like, wow, you're in the Navy, you're over water, you're over real water, but I'm used to just flying over, dirt, and it gives you a different perspective. What were your feelings when you were headed out to the ship, or when you were getting the brief? Tell them about the brief.
I guess I was in a daze, to be honest with you. You know, we had FCLPs, which are field carrier landing practice, and Navy jets always land on this thing called a meatball. We have practiced this landing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. But when that first brief came and we were actually going to go out to sea and see an aircraft carrier, and I think it's it is the first time I ever seen an aircraft carrier. And the first time I ever saw one, they all say it looked like a postage stamp. It looked smaller than a postage stamp.
Yeah.
But we were getting ready to do this, and I feel like I was trained. And it was nerve-wracking, but it was exciting as hell. It was like going to space, Paul.
Yeah. When they say they're right, when they say it's the size of a postage stamp, it's smaller than a postage stamp. When you're not very high up, because that was a little ship. But I just remember sitting there and listening. The brief is like 2 hours, what you're going to do, and your mind's kind of all over the place. It's a foreign experience. I guess it would have helped to have had like some kind of a simulator or a game or something visual. There was nothing visual, just old footage from accidents. They showed you an accident. They showed you airplanes crashing and flames and stuff like that, what not to do. And it looked like something from a King Kong movie of 1931. Not the greatest quality, but there was really nothing to look at. So you were basically depending on what your instructors told you to do and what everyone had been telling you to do up until that point. But you really, in some ways, you had a lot of preparation, but you had no preparation. You had no visual preparation for what you're going to see. It's kind of like being on Star Trek and being beamed down to a planet, which might be a hostile planet, but you got to deal with it. But you're with a bunch of other people who are in the same adventure because no one has actually seen anything.
No, and what happens is you're with all these guys who are in exactly the same position you are. We're flying T-2 Buckeyes, and we're by ourselves, and we go out in formation. Do you remember when you flew out to the ship the first time?
Yeah. You're with a group of other people. Everybody's in their own airplane.
So we flew out in a formation of 4. It took a while to get to the ship, and it was just a trip because you're flying formation, and you're just, I guess your mind is somewhere else, but you know that this is it. This is what you've trained for. What happened the first time you saw that ship?
First time I saw the ship, I remember we kind of flew over. We broke up, and the airplanes fly together and they separate because you got to do everything one at a time. And your assignment is basically to fly in the carrier pattern and to do, as I recall, I think it was a couple of touch and goes. The hook was up, and we did everything normally. But what's strange to me is when I made the turn, is what I was looking for. I was looking for the landing area, but it was like 30 degrees farther off than I thought it would be. When you're at the back of the ship, you're not necessarily lined up with the landing area. So it was a strange sight picture the first few times.
And you know what they say, Paul? They said they took heart readings from Navy pilots, and that your heart is beating faster coming aboard the ship than it was in battle, and actually real battle, dropping bombs, shooting rockets. It was actually, your heart actually beat faster when you were coming aboard a ship. I remember this, Paul. So we came in and we broke over the ship. This is my story. I'm not kidding. I'm from Harlem, and this is what happened. We broke over the ship. We put our flaps down. We put our gear down. We put everything down. And here I come, ready to land on the ship. So what you do in the Navy to go down, you don't use your nose. You actually use power. So you pull power to go down. You push power to go up because you keep the same attitude. And the reason you do that is so that the hook will stay under the airplane so it'll catch the actual wire on the aircraft carrier. Well, the very first time I came down, this left hand, Paul, would not pull the power back. And I am actually pushing my nose down over to try to get that meatball. But for some reason, this left hand does not want to pull power. It does not want to go down. And the very first time I did an approach to the ship, the LSOs, which are landing signal officers, they were saying, do you have a problem? Do you have a problem? And I said, yeah, I think I do. Let me go around once, because I was getting out of position. I did not want to go down to that ship and put that airplane on it. That was the very first approach I had. How about yours?
It worked out okay. What I remember is the strange thing was the first one was a touch and go, but the sensation of landing on the deck of a ship, it was different than touching down on concrete, which is what I'd done before. It was different. It had kind of a hollow feel to it. I mean, you can't hear anything, but it just felt different when the airplane came down. Survived that, I think we did two of them. And if things go well, they'll say, give your side numbers, 405, drop your hook.
That's right.
I mean, you could have like a drum roll with that.
You might as well, because it's for real now.
Now you're going to attempt an actual arrested landing, as they call it.
Yeah.
And did the same thing. Long story short, it worked out. And the thing is, another thing, then when you went to it, this is really like being beamed down on the ship. I won't talk too long on it. But after you made my approach, landed the first time, okay, then you pull the power back and they pull you back. Now I'm actually on the deck of a ship. And now I am in Star Trek. You have these guys in different shirts. They're running around, like ants. They have yellow shirts. And what did you see when you landed the first time?
Wow, that first trap was incredible. The tug on you. They say that when you get caught on an aircraft carrier, especially at night, that feeling's almost as good as sex. I'll tell you what, it blew my mind when I first got caught, because they teach you as soon as you touch down, you got to go full power. Because if the hook skips or you miss the wire, you go back around. So right. The very first time I came down and I got caught, I'm at full power, and guys are out there going, pull your power back, pull your power back, pull your power back. And I pulled it back. Now, Paul, I don't know about you, but taxiing the airplane the first time on the ship was amazing. And what was even more amazing was our first catapult shot. I'm going to let you do it first, Paul. Remember they taxied you to the cat? Because there is no practice for this.
Right.
There's no practice for this. You're getting put on a spacecraft now because you're about to get shot off into the world. Tell me about your first cat shot.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, because basically your cat shot, it's a slingshot, but you're the pebble in the slingshot. And this is different. So, you follow procedures and they hook you up and you're ready to go. You figure out in the end of the ship, from where you are to the end of the ship, it's not very far. And I'm like, how are we going to get fast enough to go? Because you've been taking off on land forever, for years, whatever. Now this is going to happen in 150 feet? And it does, and it's a big kick. And all of a sudden, you're airborne in about 2 seconds or so. And the airplane's fine.
Yeah.
And then you do it again and do it again. I think you had to do 4 initially. And my day was a perfect day. Perfectly calm sea, bright and sunny. Couldn't have been better.
What was the most dangerous part? Because you were an instructor you actually taught other students how to land on an aircraft carrier after you came out of the fleet. What was the most dangerous part of that?
Most dangerous part was when it was over, because I would take guys out to the boat, called the boat at the time. During the brief, I gave the brief. It was about a couple of 2 hours. I could see the looks on their faces, and they had the same looks that everyone does, like, what is going to happen? So I kind of knew what was going through their mind. And the thing that I briefed all the time, most important thing is everything's going to go good today. But when it's all done and you've passed, when you join up to rendezvous, because you come as a group, you leave as a group. When the group gets back together, pay attention to when you join up on me and don't slam into me or don't, because God, they forget about formation. They're so happy. So and so, you're a qual, happy as they've ever been in their life. And sometimes they're coming at you and they're not thinking about anything. They're coming at a missile. So to keep the problem going, I say, like, I would talk to them. I said, slow down, watch out. I did that a couple of times. That was a brief item because everybody's so happy, so overjoyed. That sometimes your basic flight discipline might take a vacation for a few minutes. And that's the most dangerous part, was the rendezvous afterwards, not the carrier. That's my experience.
Well, when my first trip out to the boat, I actually got it down. I didn't make it. And they didn't tell me I was qualled. So I had to fly all the way back wondering if I made it. I made all my traps. I did all my touch and goes, but I think that very first one was not very safe. No, it was safe, but I don't think they liked it at all. And so I had to go back and do it again. And the good part about doing something again, it was so much better when I knew what that ship looked like, when I knew what to expect, when I got that cat shot. That was a kick in the ass. This Tesla that I want to buy this Cybertruck, and they say it goes from 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. Well, we went from 0 to 130 in 2.2 seconds.
Yes.
So that was a kick in the ass. And you know what, Paul? We'll wait for another show and we'll talk about our first night carrier landings.